Welcome. We'll get started shortly. Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us or watching this on demand. I'd like to welcome you to Automating Month-End Close and Reporting with G-Accon. I'm going to hand it off to your two instructors for today, Kelly Gonsalves and Natalya Hummer. So Kelly, please take it away.
Awesome. Hi, thank you for joining us. As Zach mentioned, I am Kelly Gonsalves. I am hosting this webinar, and we will be speaking to Natalya about her practices using G-Accon for her month-end close and reporting. But I am also an accountant based out of New York City, and I do use G-Accon in my practice. And so I think this will be a fun discussion. Natalya, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Natalya Hummer, and I am the founder of Finatech Consulting LLC. We are focusing on serving QSR clients and more specifically multi-unit franchise bakeries. We offer bookkeeping services, compliance services like business tax filing, sales and use tax filing, sometimes payroll processing depending on the client. And of course, it all ends up with financial statement presentations, which we have to present and turn to the franchise on a monthly basis. And what sets us apart from a traditional bookkeeping services company is that we are trying to use accrual method of accounting as much as possible. And we are also trying to equip our clients with a powerful KPI data that will really help them run the business. And we wouldn't be able to do that without having granular data or even bringing some statistical operational data and without having G-Accon. So we're relying on G-Accon to be able to deliver more than just a QuickBooks profit and loss statement. We're really the final package that our clients see from us is a very comprehensive set of reports with charts and trends and some operational data that we are able to provide to them so they can make better decisions while they're running their business.
Was your practice always focused on the same type of client, or how did you happen into this industry?
Oh, so it actually started just about 3-4 years ago. I was catering to more nonprofit client and more like friends who had their small businesses, whether in construction or professional services. And about 3.5 years ago, my husband and I, we actually purchased a franchise, couple of franchises ourselves. So we now are proud owners of 3 crumble cookie franchises. Right. And I'm not only an accountant, I also am a business owner for a multi-unit franchise bakery. So I'm really am very familiar. I'm literally in the shoes of my clients, and having an experience working in a professional setting as a controller and CFO in my past. I'm looking for more than just cash basis, very aggregate data. I'm really looking into what's in our cost of goods sold, what's in that, and what KPIs are helpful for us. And the word spread amongst the SC community, and people, I didn't advertise, people just, hey, can you help us with this? Can you help us with that? And can you just help me with sales tax, or what do you recommend for payroll? And so it kind of grew organically. And as of today, we are providing services for 63 crumble bakeries, like individual stores. This is not the only industry that we cater, but as of now, it happens to be the majority of my clients.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Life is sweet.
Okay, so I guess we should cover a little bit of what G-Accon is. So we just learned that it's Google accounting, G-Accon. So that's, we're going to go with G-Accon, right? So that's the first day today I officially learned how to say it correctly. But it is a cloud-based solution, designed for accountants, CFOs, finance teams. I'm going to say bookkeepers, really anyone that's looking to create those maybe more complex, financial models, really looking to get, like you said, that granular data. It does automate the integration between Google Sheets and your accounting platform, but I want to say that it goes one step further, right? So I use QuickBooks Online. I know you do as well. And while yes, you can export, to a Google Sheet, this is not necessarily the same thing. And Natalya is going to go through some reports with us and really show us what it looks like when you pull that data out, and then what you can actually do to manipulate it and get it to be what you need it to be and where you need it to be. It does simplify data consolidation, which also Natalya is going to show us as well. Multi-entity management, which she just mentioned. She is I guess technically you own multiple entities as well. So you're probably doing this reporting for yourself, which is great.
Yes.
And the coolest part is the real-time sync. At least that's the coolest part for me, right? So as, life is happening, as things are happening in these businesses, you're able to then pull in that real data and kind of keep it updated. I know that you can set schedules to have it automate and bring, some of those things in as well. So you're not also having to constantly be sitting on QuickBooks and Google Sheets and go back and forth, right? You can have some of this automation kind of come in as well. We did kind of cover some of this, but is there anything on here that you want to highlight? I know that you said a couple of years ago you were kind of a small team and you were really just doing some bookkeeping stuff and helping out with some nonprofits, but you've grown to a team of 8. That's amazing.
Yes.
And you have 63 clients on average, we're saying, right? That's wow, that happened so fast. But is there anything that you want to highlight or anything that you really want to maybe tell the audience about your business and kind of how you transitioned into that, into this space? Was it kind of like put your feet to the fire, you had to learn this stuff?
Well, I have been in the accounting profession for more than 27 years now. So I've been started as a staff accountant, went all the way to the CFO, and I was mostly in the corporate world. And this is where a lot of which I bring into my current practice, because as a CEO level executive or a senior manager, we are focusing, of course, we're always focusing on the accrual method, and I've went through multiple audits, so I know exactly what good accounting practices, what they should be, what the auditors are looking for. And it's not like it's not applicable to small businesses, because they are going through mergers and acquisitions. They are trying to get loans, and sometimes I get leads from the bankers who said, "Hey, you need, we can't understand your books. You need to." We know Natalya, so I was referred to a couple of clients through my banker that way. So bankers do understand the accrual method of accountants. They look at cash, but they in their minds, like, what is it that we don't see, right? And when you're running your books on cash, and a lot of that experience from the corporate world, from accrual, from the methodology, from looking into KPIs, from really digging into the cost of services or cost of goods sold, whatever the industry was at the time. I believe that I came to understanding what really is the driver to make the business to be profitable versus not. You can do a lot of things right, but as an owner, if you don't know how you make money, then it's almost like a lottery chance, right? Like, oh, is it food goods that control my gross profit? Is it labor? Which one is more? So it's sometimes I actually see my role more in educating the clients than just presenting the financial statements. And as we go through the monthly financial reviews with my clients, I really talk and educate and showing them the charts. Some people, I would think most people like to look at the charts more than just rows of data. Yeah. So having that granular data and show them cool charts and what's the cost of your cookie? Let's look at it that way. It was a pie chart. So a lot of clients have aha moment and they start focusing on the right thing. Like, where is the what will bring the most benefit, because time is of limited, we all have time limitations. So should you really focus on saving 20 cents for every, I don't know, box of eggs that you buy, or should you save it on your labor? And the answer is always labor. So but this is what we're trying to achieve, to educate the clients, to give them that level of data, and also show them okay, so this is what happened there. They have their own benchmarking against themselves. And now that we are, because we're in such a cohort of very homogeneous industry, I also offer benchmarking against kind of like the industry benchmarking, which with the caveat that the industry is 63 stores that we have, but here we are, right? And but we do look at the industry. There's certainly data out there for bakeries, for restaurants, quick service restaurants. So it's not like we're in the vacuum. I always look at that as well, and we're pretty much in the niche for that industry, and that is very useful to present this information, and to be able to have a meaningful conversation, not just, okay, here's your P&L by client, I fulfilled my duty, it's submitted to the franchise, to the corporate, and we're actually having discussions. How do I improve my bottom line? What if I do this versus that? How do I allocate, which is a huge thing among maybe not even franchise bakeries. If you have clients who are own franchises, chances are they're multi-unit, and chances are that they need some sort of allocations, and not necessarily have one company take all expenses, because that's the credit card they use to buy in bulk, right? So
for everything.
exactly, to have a true picture, no matter what your buying patterns are. This is not traditionally done by traditional bookkeeping services. So this is where our niche is that we're really digging through.
Definitely, yeah, I was going to say it's a little bit more complex, a little bit more niche. It is pretty cool that you kind of have the advantage of being able to benchmark pretty much the same-ish stores against each other, right? So it's very specific. I guess, how were you, and it is on this, right, so on the screen, the challenges before, but how were you doing this, or were you able to do this before you started using G-Accon?
Of course, it didn't start from the get-go. Like I had all the answers. It evolved over the last 3 years. First, we started putting let's just put in like statistical data, because or labor hours, like, because once you start capturing that, you can have revenue per labor hour, output per labor hour. There's a lot of data around efficiencies. And then once you start tracking output, like in our case, it was number of cookies. Now Crumble actually has evolved beyond that, so it's number of desserts. But no matter what industry or widgets or whatever that is, so if there's certain output, even the professional services environment, it could be utilization. So these KPIs that we don't normally track, these are the ones that kind of evolved as we started talking to the clients, and especially if, I don't know, seasonality, it also affects bakeries. I guess pretty much every business. So when times are lean, this is when the owners are all ears. They want to learn, okay, how do we control costs? How do we also not lose our employees? What do we do? So I have more conversations about actually that aspect of business, how to run a business, rather than what my profit and loss look like. And
well, I think
through this conversation, I guess this has involved. I also want to share that G-Accon was not the first one that we used, and we switched for years, even in corporate world. While I was working at my last job, we used Sasant, and I used Sasant when I first started working. It did have its limitations. I couldn't use it for one powerful tool like consolidated financial statements. Like that just wasn't possible with Sasant. And there were some other limitations. Automations are really, I think they introduced it perhaps a year ago, but then they became super expensive. And so cost is definitely, and then limitations of functionalities and what they could do for us. So I was starting looking at the new solution, and I did test drive a few, and but I'm happy that I found G-Accon.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you noted something important, that oftentimes in our businesses, what we're doing is not necessarily just accounting, right? A lot of times we're teaching business owners how to do the things. I feel like I have conversations that I never thought I would have, like I was like, oh, I'm coming in to do your accounting. Let's pull this up. Let's run some reports. And then we start
Right.
having a conversation, like you said, about employees, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's something related to HR, or
Mm-hmm.
something that I find to be like, oh, maybe I thought this was common sense, but it's not something that everybody knew, right? So
Yes.
oftentimes we're giving advice and we're really involved. And I would say the difference usually for us is that it's data driven, right? So a lot
Yes.
of times you're having these conversations where you're talking about, okay, how many people do we need to hire for the season? Or do we have to make layoffs, or do we have to make changes in labor? But really you're looking at it from an angle of, hey, we ran the numbers and this is where we're at, and this is what we did
Mm-hmm.
last year, and this is what, other people in the industry are doing. And so you're able to have those conversations, but
Mm-hmm.
you have kind of like the backup, or the data that you need to have them.
Exactly.
Very different sometimes than a consultant or somebody that's coming in and coaching them on kind of how to run a business or establish it. And I think with franchises, when you buy into, and you tell me because you definitely know more, but you kind of buy into like a business that's already established, or
Mm-hmm.
like one might think that you're just walking into something that's already set up for you, but it's still very much owning a business and having to do the hard work of getting it up and running, understanding how it works, hiring employees, understanding what they need and what you need from them. That's all, kind of boots on the ground kind of stuff. That's not just out of a box, right?
Yes, you're absolutely correct, Kelly.
Yeah.
Yes. Having a franchise doesn't mean you're gonna, oh, I'm golden now. No, it's still
Right.
hard
Like you're
work.
just like, oh, I started a business. They did it all for me. It's not that
Yes.
simple.
No, it's not.
And then also they have to, I think, not only answer to themselves. Oftentimes when you're dealing with a business owner, it's them, maybe an investor, but then
Mm-hmm.
in like the flip side, you said you're also reporting back to the franchise,
Mm-hmm.
company, whatever that might
Mm-hmm.
be. So
Mm-hmm.
you're now looking at kind of both sides, right? So they're kind of kept in check by that franchise as well. So it's not as simple as just dealing with one person.
Correct. And sometimes we also have to adhere, not just, what I think the chart of accounts will be when it comes to franchises. A lot of times the chart of account is dictated, and there are certain, I don't know, for example, just to give you an example, like we can't submit a financial statement if it doesn't have anything in the pest control column for that month.
Okay.
Right. Right. So if it's
So there's
zero,
certain
then yeah, that's my month end
expenses,
reporting.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's certain expenses that are going to be required, I guess, or certain standards that they're requiring of them,
Hmm.
even regardless of location. Sometimes it doesn't matter. They're like pest control. You're going to have to sign up for it. You have to pay for it. You need to see
Exactly.
it on your report. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm sure they're also held to certain, I guess, requirements or standards overall, being a larger company, and that just trickles down to these, franchise owners. Okay, so we kind of discussed how you discovered G-Accon, right? You switched over from Sassant, which wasn't really fully able to meet what you were doing, or what you were needing, I should say. But do you want to talk a little bit about workflow and kind of where it fits in?
Absolutely. We use G-Accon. It's so versatile. We use it not just for the final product financial statements, but we actually using it to get to the financial statements. We use it extensively for bringing bills in on the detail level. And when I talk on the detail, I mean on the item level, which without G-Accon, I would never be able to do that. And that helps me um, because I am dealing with a pretty sizable cohort of very homogeneous industry players. And I have a data on their buying purchases. And because most franchises are actually required to purchase from the same vendor, that's true no matter what franchise you are, bakery or manufacturing facility, or even professional services. You kind of have you have the boundaries. And it becomes then easy to compare, not even from the cost perspective. Okay, where was this cost from the same vendor like 3 months ago versus now? And just to give you again another simple example, the cost of eggs, we probably all know as consumers, like went 2x right since June. It really is hurting the margins, but now we know what is hurting the margins.
Right.
And right, we can't really waste that, just as an example. And sometimes well, it's going just living through this. It is what it is, but at least we know why. It's not
Right.
an unknown. And um, having this granular data really helps me to to have answers when people are asking, hey, what's going on? Why did my food cost go up 5%? And so we can start digging. And
Right.
when we start digging, we can, I mean, I don't know, I'm not in the grounds at their store, but I can have 3 or 4 theories. And
Right.
then I'm like, okay, let us go figure this out. And then the next month or two, we're focusing, okay, let's focus on this metric versus that metric. And I do see what's rewarding actually for me, that I do see that it's working, because
Right.
what doesn't get measured doesn't get acted on, right? You can't really improve something if you don't have a benchmark. So what I find rewarding, that I do see that the owners who do want to improve, who do pay attention, they can do that even if their revenues go down. Like that's how good they can get into controlling their costs and becoming efficient and really paying attention.
Wow. So they're limited usually in what vendors they can work with, which makes sense because I guess part of the franchise, and McDonald's comes to mind, right? But the
Mhm.
point is, if I go to McDonald's here in New York or in California, I'm essentially getting the same thing, right? So there's the standard across the board. And so you're able to, I guess, using this tool, using QuickBooks, kind of pulling all of that data in. What part of G-Accon, and I know you're going to show us, but what part of G-Accon kind of lets you get to it's? So I think what I'm trying to say is a lot of people use it for exporting, right? Pulling it out into Google Sheets and creating, like you said, those charts. But you're also using it for importing. Is that
Oh,
correct?
absolutely. Yes. We're using it for importing, vendor bills data as much as we can on their line item, what it is that they're buying, right? Because traditionally, when you see, let's just use whether Crumble uses Cisco, but for example, as their main vendor. But of Performance Food Groups or US Foods, there are a lot of big players on the market, and no matter who they are, you can buy non-food items from them as well, and it could be like
Right.
gloves, I don't know, whatever that janitorial
Right.
supplies. And typically, what do? We usually, oh, it's a Cisco bill, let's put it into food goods, no matter what they buy. We actually, because we have G-Accon and because we have, on the other hand, you do have to have a good access to the vendor.
Right.
And luckily for us, Cisco has a very good, very structured data, which I love. It's like pure tables. And so we download and upload, and our clients think that we are heroes because, hey, here's what you bought. Here's what in your materials and supplies. You bought, I don't know, 3 gallons of whatever,
Right.
the Windex.
Right. With
And
soap, whatever it might be. Yeah.
exactly. So they know it's not just me guessing. It's the actual stuff that they're buying, and they can trace it back. And we also using importing revenue that way, because we are trying not to do cash basis. I understand that, even though whoever the POS system is or whatever, um, they may use Stripe, they may use Square. It
Right.
doesn't matter what merchant processor they use. It's usually the next day, so it's almost like accrual. But we are going beyond that. We actually have the POS data, and I do have other concepts that I work with, and they use, for example, Toast.
Mhm.
And Toast or proprietary data that Crumble uses, doesn't matter. All POS have some sort of structured data when it comes to revenues. And in order for us to provide a meaningful analysis by maybe subgroups of vertical P&Ls, maybe, I don't know, just like, let's say Paris Baguette. I have a couple
Okay.
clients in that space. They have bakery items. They also have a coffee, with barista.
Right.
So it's kind of two different, a little bit two different cost structures and
Yeah.
revenue structures. And the expectations of the gross profit is different when it comes to, cakes versus coffee.
Right.
And without having the granular data on the revenue,
Right.
right up top, to match the cost of goods sold that also matches that revenue stream, it would be difficult for me to offer meaningful advice if I didn't have that on the granular data as well. And I can only do that by pushing the data via, I use invoicing. I mean, you can use journal
Mhm.
entries, of course, but
Yeah.
I do use invoicing because I also reconcile Stripe receivable or whatever, Square receivable or cash on hand. It just gives me a lot more option when I use AR invoices. So yes, in short, I do use bills and invoices quite a lot.
That's great. Yeah, so I work mostly in the e-commerce space, so kind of similar that we have a clearing account where we're waiting for, essentially those payouts to come in, and then we're pulling, kind of pulling it back into the bank account. Sounds similar. You're putting in the invoices for what's being purchased and then pulling those payouts to pay the invoices, which is very smart. And I do love that you can, I guess, you're right. The only way to do it would be to get that line item of what they purchased and the line item of what it would cost to make that item. And so you're able to kind of granular, get it down to the tiniest little bit of data, right? But that's what it takes. The other way, otherwise you're really just summarizing. And so like you said, oftentimes people will take those bills in, but you're right. There's Windex, there's floor cleaner, there's cups, there's gloves, there's whatever else. And so that pulls away from that food cost, like if you're really divvying it up the correct way. And I don't think a lot of people look at it in that granular way. And this tool, I mean, when you were doing it without a tool, so Sassant or G-Accon, were you able to get that granular?
Oh no.
Right? I was going to say, that sounds very hard.
No, that would have been, oh my gosh, the line items, it could be 3 pages of Cisco invoices. I'm not going to do this manually. Absolutely not. No.
Nope, that makes total sense. Okay. And so I was like, I don't know, that sounds a little crazy.
Yes.
And then, no, I guess that was my question. I'm like, doing it manually, but manually entering it, then you're really kind of forced into that, what came in from the POS versus let's upload some bills. We're going to push this all into food costs, and really through no fault of your own, so to speak. But if you don't have a tool that helps you break those things down, it's near impossible to keep up with. Like, I can't even imagine. You would have to have somebody kind of sitting at the restaurant, literally just entering everything that came in the door and trying to keep up, which would be near impossible.
And this is not a value add for client. I mean, in terms of, because this has, of course, cost implications, because in our services, it would be cost prohibitive if we were to bill for that time. I wouldn't be able to just eat it up. That's a lot of work. And the clients would ultimately say, oh no, what would the client say? When we're talking at a small business, would they rather have a very granular data and pay $5,000 a month for it, or just, okay, it's good enough and we pay, $500? So I fall in the middle. I'm neither in those two spectrums, but I offer a very good value. So you do have the data, and I'm very confident when I talk about, because I know it's all backed out. Everything is reconciled.
It's all backed up by the data.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm not missing, because they didn't pay. It doesn't mean that they didn't have a liability, because I'm capturing all that data. And yes, without G-Accon, I would not be able to offer this level of services for sure.
Yeah. I'm actually, since we've been talking about it so much, I kind of want to skip ahead to the live demo so that people can see what we're talking about. So we're going to share your screen a little bit. And then I'll go back to some of the benefits. But I think if people can if you've never seen G-Accon before, if you have no idea what we're talking about, I do think that this is going to be a little bit helpful. So if you want to walk us through just kind of some of the reports that you've created and how I guess how they help you help your clients, this will give everyone some context for what we're talking about.
Okay. Well, the number one vendor for crumbles, and maybe for a lot of other QSRs, is Cisco or US Foods or whoever they are. And those are big players on the market. If you have access. So another thing I want to add that I absolutely require when I work with clients, I absolutely require a login, because nowadays we have multi-factor authentication. I can't sit and wait for the client to, hey, what's the PIN code? Can you give me that? So that is another prerequisite that kind of goes through client onboarding to set the expectations. And that is absolutely necessary, because then we're not dependent on waiting for somebody to give us the data. So we have our own logins to our clients, read-only logins to our clients' vendor sites. And this is where we go and we pull either weekly or monthly. And the beauty is it takes as much time to do this on a monthly basis. If I doesn't matter to me if it's 10,000 lines or 100 lines. It takes the same amount of time to upload it. So we literally download the CSV file from the vendors, and you can see that this is all of our not all of them, but some of them are here because we do have some QuickBooks different setups, right? Because depending on what kind of legal structure your clients have. Some of our clients have multi-store, but it's under one federal ID. So what we do, we use classes under
Okay.
the same instance of QuickBooks. So we do it a little bit separately. Okay, these are the all the clients that have classes. For example, this one, it says
Okay.
right here, class, right? And then we have a separate template for the clients who do not need classes. And
Got it.
it's almost as simple as copy and paste. And then once we copy and paste it, we have an automatic upload. It could be manual, but it could be automatic. I think for right now, we're still doing it manually just to make sure. Um, of course, it could be set
Really
up.
get
Okay, run this
fully
on every fifth,
trusted.
right? On every fifth of the month. But we're still, we're taking things slow a little bit just to make sure. And literally, we talk about, I don't know, this one is not a big one, but because for this particular company, we actually
No,
uploaded on
but
the
you can see how many line items there are. They all have the
right.
same bill number. So this
Yeah,
is
it's
a
just two
breakdown. Yeah.
invoices. I don't know, it will take 30 seconds to upload it. And here, well, I have a bill. Not only I have a bill, we also have, for example, sometimes we get vendor credits. So we have a template for that. And it's the same as the bills, copy paste. And where did I lose my previous one where I was? Maybe this one.
Mhm.
And you can see, right, so what's going on here. And as accountants, if you work in QuickBooks or Xero, we all have the same pretty much setup. So once we
Mhm.
have the items, they need to be mapped to the general ledger account.
Right.
And we don't go super crazy about the mapping the items. Okay, this is food goods or not, right? Or supplies and materials. So most of these items, what helps us is because we all purchase, and in franchise world, it's probably true for any franchisee. We purchase the same items from the same vendors, so they all have the same SKUs and
Right.
descriptions. And if I have one, then it's very transferable, and I can use the same list of items and services if I need
Mhm.
to for another client. And I'm pretty much sure that something is already mapped. And if it's not mapped, I'm going to show you how we deal with that. We have also using G-Accon, in the process of using G-Accon to tell us if we have something unmapped, instead of going, oh, do I have uncategorized? Because that's where the items will
Right.
go if they are unmapped, right? So we also have that, just started using that automation. It's a few slides down, but that's very cool. So
Now,
this
hold
is,
on. Before we go any further, I think just
yes.
for people watching, if you've never seen it before, so this is a template that you got from G-Accon, or you created this?
Oh, this comes from G-Accon. You do have ability when it comes to edit the template. I'm not
Mhm.
currently logged in. I'm logged in into the others.
Yeah,
You
you're
would need to sign in as an accountant. I assume most of the clients who are guests on this call are accountants. So
fine.
you
Mhm.
would sign into your QuickBooks as an accountant, and then underneath you will have to pick the company that it is for. And it almost doesn't matter because as an accountant, you have access to all. You log into one, you have access to them all. And
Right.
then you can edit the template. Because I'm not signed in, I'm not going to be able to do
Oh,
this
yeah.
at
No,
the
no, no. I
moment.
don't want to
Yeah.
mess with your actual live data.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So, and then you have a choice then, what it is that you want to pull. Maybe if I don't need the class, then I skip this column altogether in my other template for
Yeah.
companies that do not have classes.
Got it. I
And
guess I
that is
just
an
wanted to
example.
point out that you're not gonna have to like build this on your own, right? So there are
No.
templates that you can use, and then you're essentially mapping that into QuickBooks. But for imports, this is because this looks like a lot, right? If I looked at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I gonna fill all this out? You don't actually have to do this yourself. There's gonna be a template that you can populate the data into, and then that is what you will push in. So, okay, keep
Correct.
going.
One name, of course, because this is client specific. For example, class is something that we need
Right.
to enter. All right, vendor name we need to enter. Location name, if those of you who use locations, you need to enter. But because this is a template, it already exists. Um, this is why you probably see them highlighted, so that I'm not doing this myself. My staff is doing it now, and this is as a reminder. Like, okay, we need to make sure that we don't skip that. Like, we can't really import the bill without the vendor name, right? And the vendor name has to be correct. So we use all this. It's pretty much automated manner. Like of course, it requires some of you still have to look, and when you copy and paste, and you have to, maybe if there are 100 line items this time, but 120, then you have to, copy formulas down. I mean, it's still,
Right.
we're talking about seconds here.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's still nothing
Exactly.
compared to doing it yourself manually.
Exactly. And on the other side, so I talked about bills. On the other side, we see invoices, and I'm showing the data. These are our stores, so this is not my client. This is not my client's data, so that's why I'm only sticking to the stores that we have. And this, whether it is a POS data, which it practically is, Crumble uses their proprietary POS, so it's not Toast, but any other POS system may have something similar. And you can see that we have again, you can't import invoices with GL accounts. You have to use items. All the items are already mapped on QuickBooks. So that's taken care of course, ahead of time. And then we have everything mapped up, and we just literally copy and pasting information, downloading it, and boom, voila, we have daily revenue, daily discounts, daily refunds, not just one cash basis number without any explanation what it is for.
Yeah. It reminds me, everyone used to talk about Z tapes for restaurants. You would pull in just the data from the report at the end of the night, kind of. So you're able to summarize all of the sales for that day, but then everything, discounts, refunds, whatever happens, sales tax, right? And so you're just creating that one invoice for the day, but it has all of this information on it.
Yes, it does. And this is because for our stores, we do this on the weekly basis, but for most of the clients, we do this on the monthly basis. Again, for Excel or Google Sheets, doesn't matter, 1,000 lines or 100. I can run it for the whole month, download it from essentially a POS data. Of course, you have to work ahead of time if to map it. So when you do Control C, Control V, right? Still some manual aspect in data manipulation. But then we have sales by day, and what it gives me. Think about it that way. Okay, so what probably intuitively we all know weekends are the biggest days, but sometimes it does help what happens on holidays. How did we do on holidays last year? So by having this data on the daily basis level, I mean, of course I could run these reports on Toast, but why would I go to Toast if I have this in QuickBooks, where I have one source of truth now, and I can use other software, BI, maybe Fathom, or maybe some Reach reporting or Giraffe reporting. They can pull this data, or maybe Power BI, whatever business intelligence software, if you're offering that level of service you're using. Now you can get to this data, and this data is super helpful. Hey, how did we do on July 4th, right? On a major holiday last year, what to expect this year, how will the sales will be. So this is where we becoming really a trusted partner. This is way more than just providing accounting services. And this is why you cannot charge for your services, and your clients will never leave you because nobody else will give them this data.
No, this is genius. It's so smart. I mean, just looking at something simple like school was closed and we had a big, jump in sales on a Tuesday. It's like, all right, let's look back, and you can note those days and really and also prepare for the future. So next year we know that we need to have more people on, or whatever that looks like. I feel like those are the decisions that people don't necessarily tie to accounting, but are as important, if not more important sometimes, than just, the P&L and what people, I guess, associate with accountants. Because they don't think that something like this would come from their accountant necessarily. They think, oh, I have to look at the POS. Oh, I have to then pull up my calendar. Oh, I have to look at what, they're not looking at it in a way of, I can look at this all in one place and have it kind of a clean report, or even in your case, sometimes a chart. I hope you're going to show us a chart. You did mention some pie charts. I was excited. But yeah, so there's different ways to, and I think for different business owners, just different ways to digest that information. And so it's important to them to have the option of even seeing what it looks like.
And it also, for me to provide to advice, if they're asking me for something, okay, I don't have an answer for you now, but at least I have the data. I can go back and research it. And that is out of scope, if you want something different, which I can talk about. I think it's in the forecasting model. So we do this, and this is where G-Accon is really helpful for me, but we'll get to that in 2 slides. If just in the interest of time, I want to move on to
we're
the next
still
one. So we,
yeah.
so we talked very specifically about just data in, like putting this in. So what's the output? The consolidated profit and loss and balance sheets are obviously a very nice cherry on top, like you have it, it's right there. But on top of that, before we submit this to the client, and by the way, we're not sharing this to client because we're using a different tool. We use Fathom reporting, but I absolutely use consolidated reports during my month end close, because I'm looking at items. For example, I mentioned before pest control, right? Crumble would deny, they will reject any financial statements that doesn't have pest control in item. So what you can do, you can create a pest control alert. So that this one I can show you. So if the number in the column is empty, is less than 0, right? So I have an updated workflow, and it can run a daily, weekly, and or ask the owner. For example, uncategorized comes from something that is not mapped. Ask the owner is something that we know that the owner, like we actually need to ask the owner, what is this check for? We can't really figure this out on our own. You need to help us. So you can see that what kind of tools we have at our disposal. We can run it daily, weekly, monthly. Then I'm not going to run execution, but these are all the companies that we have. And I have, so this is an accountant. His name is Louis. He is the one who is responsible for this client's P&L. And he will get the alert with the subject, hey, please review 6720 if something either misclassified or we need to accrue for it. I mean, there's no other way, because otherwise the financial statements will be rejected. And so I'm sending this rule, and this is the alert when anything in this range of cells, we can't really see it behind this, but anything in this range of cells is less than 0, identification subject missing pest control charges, and it will automatically go out to the accountant. There's more applications to that. And one thing that I really want to mention, I am grateful, for me at least, what is very, very different about working with G-Accon is that I work with Yelena a lot, not just like I call her, but when I email her, she responds right away. And when I suggest something, they're like, okay, let us see. And oftentimes they would work on the solution like within 24 hours. Like I asked Yelena the other day about performance. She said, let us think about that. Performa P&Ls, performa balance sheets. And why would it be useful, for example, if franchise fees are X%, and I want to flag if it's less than X because I know it has to be at least X. Then the percentages, right? Flagging the percentages and creating those rules would be very useful for us in our month-end review process. Flagging other things like cost of goods sold less than, I just throwing out less than, I don't know, 25%, which should never be there, right? No bakery can survive. Well,
you're like, something
pretty much no any business can survive, right? So if we have that, we definitely have something's off, and we really need to look at that. Not that I wouldn't look at that during my month-end review, but I really want to do a pre-review, so the accountant or senior accountant who is working on that on this set of books before it even gets to me or another manager's review, have she or he has this alert set up. Hey, something is off. You need to take a look. Something is missing in this account, and we know it shouldn't. Like, we always have rent, we always have utilities, we always have insurance, stuff like that. Because we are under time pressure, and I mean, we're human beings. We can make
it's proactive. You're able to then say to your client, hey, if it really is missing, right? Say to the client, hey, we know these are going to be rejected. Is there a reason that there's nothing in this category this month? Is there a reason that we didn't have a pest control person come in, or whatever that looks like? Because then you're also kind of saving them, I'm assuming, from being in trouble with the franchise.
Well, exactly that. And also, oftentimes, actually, they just forget that I didn't pay that bill. And then we look like heroes.
Right.
Hey, we've been accruing it for 3 months now. Do you actually use this service?
We need to see if this is actually getting paid and actually happening. Right. No, understood.
Exactly. Or like with linens and uniforms, again, whatever account that that the client, they can't run the business without electricity or stuff like that, right? and you see it's
I would think
missing.
for even stuff like I always set an alert on e-commerce stuff for refunds, right? We want to know if refunds are happening, if there's a trend in refunds, if there's something specific, if it's related to a specific item. So setting alerts to say, hey, this refund happened, or even X amount of refunds have happened, also lets them know something is usually wrong, right? So like looking back, there's something wrong with the product, it didn't, or something maybe with shipping that it didn't go out in time. And I would say in your case, same idea, right? Really any business where you can set up those kind of proactive, get in front of it, give them a heads up kind of things, you're going to come out as the hero every single time.
Yes,
No question.
And even helping our accountants, because they have, we're human, rather than toggle from log off one QuickBooks, log into another, log off, log in, log off, log in. And a lot of times we're dealing with allocations, so it's very easy. We don't really have anything, at least that I could find, for that is very useful for intercompany allocations. So it really is very manual at this point, and that actually brings me to another slide. If something is missing because it was purchased at another store, and yes, we posted to 8 out of 9 and we forgot the 9th, this would be very useful.
Right.
And on the other side of it, of course, balance sheet, we have due to, due from. So this is an example. So we do look at this from that perspective, and not necessarily just on the balance sheet, that the due to, due from is the outcome of it, but this is extremely helpful when we are looking, before we submit the file, did we miss any allocations? Because we're looking at this, and this is what the accountants see. And I'm sure there's ways to come up with, hey, sum up this total. If it's not zero, then it's an alert, right? Because receivable and payables, or whatever that is, whether you track them on the current assets or current liabilities, or the mixture of two, you can certainly set up an alert this way too. That then ultimately has to be a total of zero.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And I mentioned that we do some special project, franchises, or like any businesses, they are being bought and sold, and so they all go through pretty much most of them require lending, pretty much most of them require some sort of forecasting. I get this a lot from banks, even though if they have to maintain, not necessarily they're buying or selling, and they need to maintain line of credit, the banks will require them, hey, we want to see your 12 trailing months, right? And in this regard, G-Accon has been a blessing, because I just say, okay, just show me 13 periods. It's dynamic. I'll never have to go and say, oh, what's 13 months? Yes, 12 months from this month.
Right.
And what I have it, I'm not going to show it because it's an actual client data. I'm just showing you the summary, but you can see that we're using, X lookups and all kind of other just linked accounts to the year-to-date actual dynamic. Then we have the forecasting tools, and we have projected total for this client for the 4 stores that this client has. So that's another tool, another way to use this on a higher level, and this is definitely way beyond bookkeeping.
I mean, even just when you click into one of the amounts, you can see the complex formula that it's pulling from a different sheet, and it's pulling all this data in. I remember back in the day just trying to link different Excel sheets, and it was such a pain. So just being able to kind of even present a summary that is fairly simple to read and understand, again, major. And I'm sure it sounds like the banks also appreciate it. So it's sounding to me like, why would your clients ever leave, right? Like, you're giving them essentially everything they need, and it's going to be hard to find that in another place, especially because you're so niched into this industry, but you're also able to give them kind of like an overwhelm of information that they can then pick and choose, what they need to look at and how they can apply it, which is great.
Right. It takes one time to build this. This is applicable once you build up the projection, because they are based on some sort of drivers and assumptions. I've done a lot of projections in my life. It's also applicable to pretty much any business. What I like about this, that the trailing 12 months is dynamic, and that I don't have to go and rerun this. This practically runs it itself. The way I build it, it's also plus 12 months, like always I use the formulas, the dynamic formulas for it. And
Mhm.
my client loves this. This one I actually share with my client. She's like, "Hey, Natalya, have you already closed September? Can I take a look? Like, what's
Oh,
the
wow.
projected total will be?" And this particular one she ran, she didn't even tell me. She's very intelligent, very data driven business owner herself.
Mhm.
And what was exciting for me is that she said, "Oh, I arrived almost at the same result, but in different way, because it's her
Nice.
business, right? She knows her business
Yeah.
best, and I'm just an accountant. But using this this hands free now. I mean, it
Right.
took me a while to build it, but right now it's hands free. I can run it this forever."
Well, I
Yeah.
always, and I've written articles on this, but when it comes to any app or anything where we're, kind of connecting to or from QuickBooks or whatever accounting or even POS, anything like that, it's all about the setup, right? So
Mhm.
oftentimes your most of your work and most of your focus and concentration is going to be on setting it up. But then if you've done it right and the app does what it's supposed to, you can kind of hands off, right? So
Mhm.
it's yes, can be frustrating, let's say in the very beginning, and you're gonna have to go through kind of mapping everything out and making it make sense. But also I think that's where customer service comes into play as well, because if you're stuck or if there's something that you wanted to do and you can't figure it out, or maybe it doesn't, or whatever the case is, being able to reach out and really get answers. And I think that is what sets different technologies in our industry apart. When I can actually speak to a person, I can have them help me map this out. They can help me understand,
Mhm.
the report or whatever it is. But then just being able to connect to it, and you can then, I'm assuming, right, you can connect it to new companies, you can use the same template and you're not having to redo it every time. Is that right?
Very close, but the assumptions probably different depending on
Assumptions
the
different.
industry
Okay.
that you're in. But the forecasting part is still probably going to be tailored to a specific client, because it depends on the industry. Some people may have a machinery, right? Construction industry would be totally different
Oh yeah, totally.
than the bakery industry or professional services. But the concept, the trailing 12 months, right? How to put the summary sheet together.
Right.
What formulas did I use to dynamically add, always 4 months in the future? That is already done. So once
Right.
it's done, right, it's more than 70% of work if I have
Nice.
to do this for another client. Hmm.
That's beautiful. I love that. Okay, do we have one more?
One more, last one. So
Okay.
we also
Yeah, no,
use
no,
G-Accon. Okay, so we also using G-Accon for my purposes, month end close. And we actually did this yesterday because we were playing with it. And what I love about, yes, what G-Accon allows you to do, so these are all of our clients, and we are pooling and stacking their
okay.
accounts payable together. So it creates a table, and here we have a company. So now once it's a table, you can do whatever. You can pivot it, right? You can index
Right.
it. You can do whatever. And here I'm actually using it for my purposes, because I'm okay. What's on the receivables on my side should be exactly on payable on the client side, right? So I'm doing this audit, and yes, you do see some of it because it's also related to some clients having classes. So in
Ah,
my view, I have one client, but they have 3 bills. So I
got
still
it.
have to refine it, but I wanted to show you what's possible. So it also
Yeah.
can be used to compare if you have a lot of clients, to compare you're doing this CAS type of work, and it's a monthly billing. You can certainly do this for this purpose. And we literally just whipped this up yesterday.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
That's so fast. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Okay. That's awesome.
Yes.
And so this is internal, you're saying? When you say
Yes,
it's your
this is
business?
for me, for my accounting company. Yes. So I'm
Wow.
looking at my receivables for my clients and then compare to the payables
Right, on their
of my
side.
clients. Right.
So you're able to pull essentially from different companies
These are
into,
all my clients' accounts payable.
right.
Right.
So you're able to pull them all into one,
Mm-hmm.
right, regardless of where they are. So in QuickBooks is connected to G-Accon, then you're
Mm-hmm.
able to pull in that data to one place and then do the comparison. And it took
Exactly.
minutes.
Well, this part didn't take minutes, but
Okay.
then I never have to do this again. It
Right.
probably took maybe a couple of hours because I have so many clients.
But
But
that's
then
the
this is
setup part.
set, done and forget about it. kind of setup, because now I can run it. I mean, we still have to refine it, but at least I've got all of my clients' payables right here for the purposes of reconciling my receivables, Finatech's receivables. But if I were, for example, to focus just on, I don't know, something on Cisco or DoorDash or whatever the common vendor is, you can certainly think of other ways to using this feature, when you can stack up receivables of all your clients, and if for whatever reason you need to do that. And there are other reports. Again, G-Accon has a wealth of possibilities. I feel like we just started and we've been using them for more than 6 months now, that they can even, there are some templates where you can pull data by vendor, where you can pull data by GL account. So you can get really granular, and this is a work in progress, and I'm really looking forward to exploring more, and I'm really looking forward to all the developments that are coming along the way. And pro forma, if Yelena is here, I'm sure Yelena is here. Pro forma P&L and balance sheet would be a gift. Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. I feel like only 6-ish months, you've come like a long way. You've been able to do so much in it already. And again, you feel like you've probably just tapped it. Like you still have so much more to discover, right? There's so many different ways to set it up, templates, what you can use to present to clients. I know when I first started working with G-Accon years ago, it was a little more complicated. And so I think for anyone that's watching that maybe looked at it before, it's definitely worth taking another look, because now with those templates in place, it's a lot more plug and play. And so you're able to do maybe a little bit more without having to know, the complexity of some of the formulas yourself, or having to go and look up where the data is. Like a lot of it is now templated. And so you're really plugging into a template, and you're able to present to your clients, especially for advisory work or anything like that. You're able to present to your clients almost seamlessly and so quickly. And it's, again, I think a much more detailed presentation. It's much more clean presentation than just handing them a bunch of different reports that kind of all look the same coming out of your accounting software, right? So handing them the P&L, the cash flow, the balance sheet, just kind of all, here you go, black and white PDFs, and I'll see you next month. It's very, very different. Yeah. I guess we should probably switch back to the slides. We only have a couple more minutes, but I wanted to kind of leave time. Oh, I have to exit my full screen. I wanted to make sure that we covered everything. Where are we? Here we go. Okay, so I think we did definitely cover some of these things, so I don't want to bring people back, but when you take a look at the slides, you'll see basically we discovered, how this helped Natalya change her month-end close drastically, I think, improving accuracy, kind of pulling out those errors, being able to proactively warn her clients if there was something missing, setting an alert for her staff so that they didn't have to go and dig and find the thing that was, off. And it then also allows you, I think, anything where you're improving efficiency, you're able to improve, you're able to increase your client load, right? So if you're not spending hours and hours on this one client just to generate these reports, you have room to take on more clients. And then essentially it looks like probably grow your team to then accommodate, more clients. So I think time savings is a major pro or benefit. But I think it's also empowering your team, not only your clients, but empowering your team to be able to, work with this data and really understand it better. And then being able to, like you mentioned, the client that's like racing to see if she has the same outcome as you. It's like almost gamifying it and getting excited about it, right? So we did the demo, but I did want to open up for any questions kind of last minute. If anyone has any questions, I know that Yelena's been answering specific G-Accon related questions in the chat. But I think she may have answered all of them. But if you have any, if you want to throw them in there now, you can do that. We have just a couple more minutes. And yeah, I think we kind of covered this, but again, automating repetitive manual tasks, freeing up time for work. I think this is all kind of like common sense at this point after the conversation we've had, but just the improving of accuracy, the time savings is major. I think like you mentioned, everyone's limited on time, but then also just being able to get some of that back for whatever that looks like for you is important, right? So it's changing your practice, but also sometimes that's changing your day-to-day. Sometimes that's changing the life of your clients, changing the projection of their business, helping them run a more successful business. And then it's specifically in the space that Natalya is working in. Sometimes it's, clients that have more than one entity, and just being able to look at that as a single picture rather than trying to run 3 separate locations and understanding what's happening in each one, kind of bringing it into one place and saying, okay, are we okay? And how are we doing? And what can we do to make this better? I think that's a game changer for any business owner. And thank you for coming.
Thank
I
you
know
very
we
much.
have here for a free trial. Anyone that's interested in a free trial, I'll leave these on the screen until we sign off. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Natalya, for sharing your story with us. And I mean, all of the efficiencies that you've kind of been able to create, which is amazing. And I guess I'll hand it back over to Zach.
Thank you for having me.
We just got a quick last question. I don't know if you want to take a look at it.
That is a Yelena question.
Okay. Well, thank you both then for doing this. I'm going to play a video for a quick reminder on how people can earn CPE for attending today's webinar.
Today's event has ended. To earn CPE, go to earmark.app or scan the QR code on the screen. Then log in or create your free account. Search for the course by tapping on the magnifying glass icon on the home screen and then entering the name of this event. It takes a few days to make the course, so if you're attending this event live, keep an eye out for an email letting you know when the course is available. Pass the quiz to earn your CPE, then tap the button to email yourself a certificate. Stay tuned for more events from Earmark. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.